listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to UppTalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say UppTalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
Any questions on the last assignment or like any question on your homework? Yes, see for example, let's say if I do any not the XSLT code, that what we have written, and then there's no mistake or anything like that. But let's say like any character, let's say the variable or the Excel tags we written right or anything. For example, let's say the character right, the character. Let me ping you, and do you want to share screen? Should I make it a presenter? Yes, please. Okay, alright, go ahead. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, for example, let's say this one. When I didn't validate this one, the code, because luckily you gave me this one, the test file or the test one, and I copied it in the last class because you gave me in the chat window. For example, this A. This one little character A is not italic, and then it is like a normal character, and then it gave me an error. So I was struggling why this is not this one, but the error it's showing here. It's not that one, but it giving me an validation error. And then that's like very hard to find out what mistake I have done and all that. And then finally it gives you this error like very quickly. Yeah, an error with XML Oxygen picks it up very quickly. And which is why it is a licensed software. And the error which you have right now is so. You remember I was telling you something. What is Prolog? Yes, Prolog is an XML. This is the one that's called statement. It is written in XML version equal to 1.0. That's a Prolog. Yes, so now you are having an error because you're this new filer .out.text. Because it is getting validated as XML and all you have is a space here. So can you delete the first line? I mean, it doesn't matter because this file is not important for you. So if you delete this file, you will see that this error is gone. So why this is showing is because Studio by default thinks whenever you are using an XSL transformation, you are only going to output XML file. So this is why it's showing like this. But what I see incorrect in your file is Venkat. I am seeing the header repeating, yeah. Can you show me your Excel ID? I will quickly tell you what you are doing wrong. So you are this XSL text line, right? The first line. Yeah, no, the first name, last name, EI the header line. This has to come before the template. Oh, before the template. Okay. So that's why it will not loop it in. So whatever is coming in template, it is looping them, right? You only want it to be printed once. So you will print it before the loop. That's it. Or just Control X and yeah, or cut. And if you will try it now, you will see that it's happening only once. Now this text line is not. No, hold on. Are you sure this is the XSL ID you copied from me? Yeah. So what's going to happen is, it's not going to work like this. So basically you have to use two templates. Or you can use SLID for each. So you have to use XSL ID for each to loop into the report entry. We'll do something like this in our upcoming assignment. Don't worry. I will teach you like how we can play with header, how we can play. And when you are using an aggregator, you don't even have to worry about it in Excel ID. And when we will learn Excel ID point trio, then you will learn more about XSL for each and everything. Alright, so we are clear till here. Alright, let me go ahead and share my screen. So what I did was I have implemented aggregator. So I'm going to tell you how we can do that. And also today, I'm going to talk about how we can create a hash map. So, Venkat, now I think you are at a level where if I don't do something from scratch and I'm just going to show it to you, you can understand it. Right, so it's not like I have to drag components for you. I have to write each statement for you. I mean, if you still feel uncomfortable, I can do that. Just let me know. But I think you are now at a level where I can show you that this is how I'm doing it. I can share the Claire with you, and then you are going to learn. Right? So I am also going to talk to you about the cloud log. But we will still implement it after our master activity tool. Okay, we will not use cloud log until master activity 2. After that, we will start using cloud log. Okay. And tomorrow I'm going to have you do the master activity 2. So it's going to be around 2 hours again. Okay. So I request you to have some breakfast. Don't sit hungry for the class, you know. Right? Probably I can take like 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes in the beginning to explain a new concept which you might have missed. By the way, I just had a look through the master activity. We have not missed. So first I think we can talk about how we can call the report having launch parameters in Studio. Then we can talk about aggregator. Okay, and then if time allows, we can also talk about the hash maps. So I'm just going to show you. First, let me ask you, and if you know this, we can complete hash map. If you don't know this, you can keep it for a later point. So do you know what a hash map is like in any programming language? I'm getting tired. Okay, let me give you a quick overview. So hash map is a type of collection. Alright, have you worked in for any collection? Have you worked with arrays like you know what an array is? I know what array is, but I don't know the exact definition. So, Venkat, let me tell you something like in any programming language you must have used. Like I'm just talking about C. So, for example, and there are arrays in C. So, let's say I can assign int a is equal to 5, right? This is, I have assigned some value. What if I want to assign multiple values to one variable? Like can I assign int a is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No, right. This is not right. This is incorrect. I can only assign one value to one variable. But there are certain situations when you are going to need that. Okay, I think for this situation, if I had multiple values only in one variable, it would have been easy. Those situations are dynamic situations. Like you are never going to know how many employees are brought from your report. So you cannot declare, like you cannot declare 1,000 variables just to store each employee's name or something. Right. Now in Workday Studio, we have something called like splitter. And then we can work on each record. But let's say, what if Workday Studio also did not have any splitter? Or let's say you wanted to like store each employee's name and use it for a later purpose. So now let me give you the requirement. Let me create the need. Then let me explain you. Okay. Now let's say I have got 20 employees in an incoming file. Right. Out of those 20 employees, I am telling you 10 employees are fake and are not correct. How can I test that? How can I test that? So I will go to the Workday tenant. I will get a file, create a report. I will pull all the employees from the tenant. Okay, like there are 1,000 employees. I will pull all the employees. Now I'm gonna match each of these 20 employees against those 1,000 employees. For 10, I'm gonna have a match. For 10, I'm not gonna have a match. Is that right? Right. Right. So where can I store those 1,000 employees information in my studio? Like we have worked with so many components. Do you think that there is one component where we can store? Like we have only used one types of variables in eval. That's props. That's used for state restoring values. Right. Props is used for storing values. So is it possible for you to create 1,000 props to store each employee information? No, that's a very bad practice, but it's not possible. It's possible. Like, even if you do it today, what if there are 2,000 employees tomorrow? I'm gonna change the code every time. Right. So that's when you require a data set which can have multiple values. So that when you loop around those information, you can store against each value. That's when an array is used. Okay. So now I don't want to go to Java. Because like array is the first basic collection which people start to use. And hashmap is the last collection which people use, and they do not use any collection after this. Because it solves everyone's purpose. It is fast. It is easy. It is like except handles exceptions very good. Memory management is very good. But as we move towards technology, right? Like earlier, 2 megapixel camera in Nokia was very good. Then 10 megapixel camera was very good. Now even 64 megapixels are are even less. Initially we used to use 5 MB floppy disk. Now even one TV is less. Right. Technology keeps on moving. But this hash map, we have moved over this hash map. We have moved over this hash map. We like nowadays we do it with XSLT 3. That's the latest. Parenthesis pointer. This was the latest. Okay, and in some organizations, even till today, this is being used. Okay. Alright? Alright? So I'm going to explain a little bit. Okay. How hash map works is, hash map stores values in form of key versus value. So let's say I was saying I want to store those 1,000 employees. I want to store those 1,000 employees somewhere in Studio so that I can match. I'm going to say I am getting employee ID as 134 on T312. Uh, 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 let's say these are my employee IDs. Let's see. I mean, in Workday, you will never see an employee ID starting with an alphabet. Even in an employee ID can never have an alphabet. So let's just assume that these are my employee IDs. Alright. Right. So I'm gonna say so. These will be my keys. So how values are stored in hash map is key comma its value. Okay. So it's just like your table. Database table. So this first column becomes my employee ID against a name or any information I want to store. You can only store two values. One has to be a key and one has to be a value. There can be no more columns in this hash map. Got it. Got it. So let's say I am storing employee ID against name, which is test1. This is test2. This is test3. And this is test4. So let's say this is my data set. Oh. Now I get an input file that gives me two employees ID. One is a 1234 and another 1234. Now E1234 is incorrect and I know it, but I want to store it against a name and I want my system to detect it. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my system, okay, pick this value, a 1234, and match it against this data set. Match it against this data set. So basically, if my hash map contains a key called a 1234, that means it has some value. That means there is an employee ID called a 1234 in my system. That's why I've stored it. Right? So this is going to be a valid email ID for me. Okay. When I will match this, there will be no key existing for this in my hash map. So there is this. Employee ID will be detected as fake. Right. Now I'm going to show you how it's done in a studio. So here, what I'm doing is I have created a report. I am getting employee ID from tenants like this is calling my report. Right? Yeah, this is how we call a report, right? This is how we have called a report. We are splitting it. Again, same report, data report entry. Now we are getting the values. Okay, see how my storing. I have declared this hash map before. Let me show you that. So this is how I have declared a hash map. Okay, it's again a Java concept. So you are creating an object here. There's new java.util.hashmap. And here I am storing the values in hashmap. So first I am creating a key. Okay, so I am saying hashmap.key is part0.text path employee ID. Right? This is how we fetch the employee ID. So I am saying the key is employee ID and the value is the whole of report entry as of now because I don't want to even look at the value. I'm not using that value. No. Okay. I'm not using that value. I just want to keep it for validating purpose. So you know what's getting stored here. So it's storing employee ID and whole of report entry text, like the report entry. No, and the some information and report entry close. This is how value is getting stored in my hash map. When I'm saying this is the name of my hash map .put. .put is a method to use the keys and values in a hash map. So we use this is again a Java method .put. Okay, so first we put the key which we have declared here. Then, like I am putting the value, which I am putting this par0 to text, I can put any value. I mean, it doesn't even matter to me, but we just put it the employee, the report entry, so that in future, if you want to use that employee name, we can get that information. We can get from this hash map. So basically consider when cut like you want to validate a record against your database table and you are only validating whether this exists in your table or not. So it doesn't matter what value is present in second column right. You will just check what is there in the primary key. Right. If primary key is existing, the record is valid. Doesn't matter what the name of the product or the name of the employees or what information other is there. So it's just for validating purpose. Okay, so here with splitter, we are storing all the employees in this hash map. Okay, all the employees in hash map. Now comes a validation part, how we are going to validate it. So here I'm assigning values. All right. So if you give it, I'm checking employee ID. Yeah, employee ID check. Okay, so employee ID check is empty. Now then how I am checking. Okay, props employee ID dot get. Props employee ID now dot get is a method to get the information by the employee ID by using your key value. Now my key was employee ID. Right. So if I am using this map.get key, that means what I'm gonna. Okay, let me explain it. So let's say I have this variable. Okay, now employee ID check is empty for now. Okay, this is my map. This is my map. This is my data set. Like this, I am saying dot get props employee ID. Now again, I am splitting when I'm getting an input file. So for this time, my employee ID is a 234. Right. Okay. Right. So this is good. I'm going to substitute here. Dot get this employee ID. Now what it will do is it will go and start searching just like date in database table. So it will say, okay, I see this value found match and it will return. Okay, this value and this will store in this variable. Okay, right? So this value is stored in this props employee ID check. Okay, now this has some value. This variable has some value And this is only gonna have some value when it's gonna find a match. Right. So then what I will do is I will just check whether my employee ID is empty or not. Right. If it's empty, that means that my employee ID did not have a match. That's why this variable is empty. Okay, right? It found a match. That means it has some value. This is how I can validate that whether of my 20 employees in my input file are valid employees or not. Okay, so just understand the concept for now. Okay, I'm gonna share this glare with you as mentioned in our syllabus content. Also, I want to share this glare with you, no worries. So when I share this glare with you, you will have like how to create, probably. I will share before, only after teaching you cloud log and all. I'm gonna share this glare with you and I'm gonna have your master activity 3 to make exact replica of this glare. And that will be without the document. And you cannot copy paste. Right? Because we want you to learn right. Okay. Although we are going to make it a bit easy for you, don't worry. So this was hash map. Now what was our next concept was okay. Now we have to talk about what if our report. So this report has some launch parameter. So report has prompts right. How can you pass them in Studio? As of now, whatever report we were calling did not have any prompts. But what if the report we were calling has a prompt? So how can we call that in the Studio? That's my question. Okay, let's open our report. So I think this report is not available. So this report is gonna. This is a temporary report that this must have got like disabled by 10 December. So we are just make a copy. Right. We cannot uncheck this. And then we will delete the previous report. And that's gonna create trouble for us. So share with all authorized users advanced. Okay, the namespace is correct. This is gonna go on a Q1. Okay. Create this report. Let me delete the previous one. Delete this. I think I'm not the owner right now, which is why I'm not able to delete. Let's create Gmails as a corner. Now let's try to delete. Still, I'm not getting an option to delete. Don't worry, I will delete it later on. So after this, what we have to do is you also have to change it in our studio. Right. If you remember, we had selected a reference. We had selected a reference in our studio. Right, right. So what I do in good is, this keeps on happening. So what's an alternate to this? Is you remove the report reference. Okay, just clear the report reference. Now it's definitely going to give you an error because there is no report. Right. Said. Okay, now deploy. Test deploy. Did. Here find your studio. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, just look at my screen. Okay, I'm going to show you some function. Oh, so okay, now it was test Ajit, right? Because I gave the original studio to you. Oh no, it's gonna search so many. So let me search with Ajit. Now I'm going to counter reports. Okay, this way you can do it from the tenant and you don't have to change the studio code. Now let me copy the name. If it's not searchable, then we will have to change. Okay, it's shared. Right? So this way, this is the best way. You know why? When, in practice, in corporate world, you are going to migrate your integrations from one tenant to another tenant. This is going to create an error for you because what's one reference in one tenant is reference ID will always change in another tenant. Right? Right? So this is how we can make this easy. All right? So we have configured the report. Now let's add a filter or a prompt to our report. Okay, let's edit it. It also tells you where it is being used. Uh, Now let's see. We already have a filter gender is not empty or we can see filter. Frequently used in the selection list and we are going to prompt. We're going to prompt the user. Comparison try comment. From the user for the value. Yeah, so when we add a prompt, you also have to populate. Yeah, default prompt. Now, whenever we're going to run this report, we need to enter the prompt, and that's a mandatory parameter. Now, right. If I don't give prompt, I think it will give me an error, right? Or no result. So if I enter, let's say me, it will give me answer for only me. Right, right. Okay, so, but how do I give it through Studio? Like my Studio does not know that report is using prompts. Right. If I call it directly that way, it will give me an error. If you want, I can show you, but I will ask you to try it on your own. Okay, I'm going to take, you know how the Studio calls the report from Workday tenant. The module we use, right, call report from tenant, right? So that's calling because our report is web service enabled. That's basically calling and requesting a REST call to our report. REST call, right? Yeah, because that's why we say report as a service. We do that. RAAS, that stands for report as a service. So report is getting used as a web service. So basically, Studio is calling a web service call, and that's how it's calling the report in Workday Studio. Okay, right now. We're going to go to web service. We're going to go URL. Okay, we are going to, let's say, provide a mail. Okay, now see Workday. XML is definitely going to ask me for this credential. Do you see this? You are your custom report. So this report you know till here, till this copy everything, this URL to this copy, basically the name of your report, anything basically before your question mark, anything before your first question mark is getting taken care of by this statement. Now, when you have added a prompt, that's what we called as a request parameter in a web service URL. Okay, basically pose. Here, request parameters are given to request the data on the basis of the parameters you provide. That's why the name request parameters. So see if you will see, it will say that gender width is equal to this. Now width. Do you know what is width? Workday ID, right? So they defines ID for every instance. Now we are saying Workday width. That means that Workday is saying, this is Workday way of representation of male. This is what this way of representation of male. And I'm going to just copy this, okay? And I'm going to put it here. So this will work. Now this means that I am only requesting data for all the gender, which is male. So this is going to work. Let me show you. So if you remember, we had stored our report XML. You know, sometimes you can get stuck in these errors, this request, parameters and all, and it's going to take like all day before you figure out, okay, what was the actual error? Okay, so that's why what I think is what I do is I normally copy from here, so that so that I don't fall into any mistake. I don't commit any mistake. This is our report output. And if we open this report, so you have already created a calculated field which gives us the gender right. So if you will see this is all male everywhere, let me search for female in this. See, there are so many matches. Yeah, right? So this tells us that this worked in our studio as well. Right. I'm going to show you how I did the aggregator. So I have a quick question. So in prompts, for example, male or female or age, whatever we like, we want that particular report to customize. Basically, right, let's say the age is less than 50. Let's say we give 45, and then we can see that report. So the same customization, for example, I know right now we see we see an example of only the male. So all the male records we got popped up. But next time we want to run the integration. Let's say this is not like everyday integration. Like I want to run the integration. I have totally understood your question. I mean, there is no need to explain more. So I know what you are trying to ask. So you're saying, Ajit, today we ran the integration and it ran for only male. Tomorrow, if I want to run it for female and Ajit is going to say, okay, Venkat, what do you want to have to do? Is you have to change the weight of female. From male to female here, then you will have to copy it from the tenant. And then you are going to say Venkat is going to say Ajit, then day after tomorrow, I want to do it for transgender. Now if I have a requirement to run an integration that Monday it runs for male, Tuesday it runs for female, and Wednesday it runs for transgender. I'm not going to change my code in Studio every time. Do you see, I'm talking as a work developer, and I really appreciate for bringing that question, Venkat, because that's where our next concept lies. Right? So you definitely have a good question. And okay, let's say I even find a way for you, like how you know. So basically, the only answer to that is, basically you can create your launch parameters of Workday Studio. So you will create launch parameter on your Workday Studio. You will ask the user to give you the value, whether you want it to run for male, but if you want to run it for female, but you want to transgender. So while running in the studio, user has to provide the value, which value he wants to run it for. And then you can use that value and provide it here. But then again, you are going to ask me, okay, Ajit, I think the user can provide value of male, female, or transgender. But I don't think so. User can provide with each time. Right? How can you provide with each time? So where we, as Workday consultants, what we do is we play around it. So we ask user to get to enter the information, what he wants to put like male, female, or anything. And then we will get the weight of that instance from the Workday. And then we will put it here. That's part of your activity, okay. And I'm going to add and improve a bit on it. So probably not tomorrow. Probably day after tomorrow, we are going to have your activity day. I think tomorrow again it will go in like how to add through launch parameter. I'm going to explain you that. But that's not part of that activity. So you see, this is what we have done in the activity also. So here see, we have basically copied a custom report, right? And we have used the company as a filter prompt here. Now, like in Studio, like there are 3 launch parameters. You know launch parameters. So there are 3 types of launch parameters like simple type, reference type, elimination type. So we create a reference type launch parameter, right? We will mostly use reference type launch parameters because what we want to do is we want to get the weight from Workday tenants. So reference type means get the reference ID of that object from Workday tenant. So to select the class report field, then we will see the CRF name. We will use that. So we will like we have named, given the name company. We have selected that. We will select that field. Then we will use this syntax. Like at reference data and reference ID. So that type. How to get this type? We don't know, right? Right? So see how they will know. See, this is also, they are getting weight. Right. Yeah. Yeah. But how they are providing it through Workday Studio? We are getting the reference ID through launch parameters and then using it. So this was on my radar. I have to show you this. So see, instead of this path, what we are going to do is, this is how we are going to use. We are going to use a variable to provide the reference ID. Got yeah. So this way anyone can put any value they want to use. And it will be handled by variables. So this is basically our activity. Also, we are going to have a look at it tomorrow. And then day after tomorrow, I will give you this activity. But even after this activity, I'm going to like, it is not mentioned in my document. Like it finishes till here. So you just put the value of reference ID and it's finished. But now we are not going to stop here. I'm going to ask you to aggregate the output for me, which is why I want to show you the aggregator first. And I'm going to ask you to practice aggregator today. So that tomorrow, when we like tomorrow, I will teach you this and probably I will teach you some one thing like cloud log or something. And day after tomorrow, we can start with our activity directly. So where was I? Okay, I wanted to show you how I use an aggregator. So aggregator is a simple component. You can pull it from directly from the palette. Just drag and put. So here we have like so many strategies again. Again, one is custom, best strategy where you can, always you create your own code. Then size best strategy. Basically, you want to aggregate on the basis of size. Now you will say, okay, 10 records. Okay, create a batch 10 records. Create a batch 10 records. Create a batch. That's size-based size strategy. So you have to give the condition what size you want to create. Okay. By mistake, I clicked it. Then next is time-based strategy. So, like you want to create a batch after every 10 seconds, after every 30 seconds, after every 5 minutes, So we use basically a grater when there is huge data and we have to divide them in batch or in our case, like we are aggregating data from our report. Then this is custom collator again. So always we have to use a strategy and then we have to use a collator. And this is the message content collator. So I use this normally. Okay, then XML message content collator. It's up to you. ISO message can be used for both text and XML. So that's why I use the message content always. So this is like studio message content. Okay, next I will message content and zip file and table. And table is something which we have stopped using in the studio. Now we don't use it anymore. It was like similar to the database table. We don't use it after hash maps. So what I use is I use a size strategy. There is no coding in this. I have not given any batch. I don't want to force a batch for 10 employees. I want the record at the last. So what's okay? So I set size strategy. Right. So and I use the message content collator. The message content collator. It asked me, do you want to give any header text? Okay. Give this header text. Do you want to give any footer text? Yes. I said, okay, give this footer text. You can use even studio variables you want to use. It's up to you. So, like I've tried to use the same, what we did was accessibility. So you know right. Like, I removed the header from accessibility because I'm giving through a generator. You only have to use it once. I can get it, will only give it once. This is why I removed the header from your accessibility. Now my aggregator, I have given some condition to my aggregator, like I wanted to add the message only when this condition is true. Now let's say I'm validating an employee and the employee is invalid. I don't want to call it my message then. Call it means adding up, right? So I don't want to call it when my employee ID is incorrect. So what I've done is so if in case of any error raised by this invalidation expression, so like it is, and this, what I've said is props call it is equal to false. So that employee will not be added. That employee will not be added. Right? But how do I tell my aggregator when to stop because I have not given any size? Let's say there are 400 employees. Now my aggregator will keep on waiting because he doesn't know that it's the 400 employee. How do you tell your aggregator, okay, this is your 400 employee. Now you have to stop. Don't aggregate after this. I won't put a text after my 400 employee. But how do you tell? Your aggregator. So there is a function in Java library. I've used it here. That if it's your last message, this will give you true. Is last message in batch? I mean that's like quite understandable from the functioning. I have not created this. This is by default available in util library. So is last message in batch. Then this will be true or false. So I have told my aggregator that force the batch when my last message is equal to true. Make sense? So as of now, what I've done is like I even have the output here. So after my aggregator, like I'm using the calling, the subroutine. And in my subroutine, I'm storing the aggregator output. Right. Text file. Yeah, I created one XLT text. So I have closed the text file. Hold on. I would have it in my downloads. This is a text file. So this is how it's going to look like, right? Your first line header is here. Then all your content, which we support, like after splitter, we used to get one report entry right here. We are seeing all the report entries. All the report entries and then the footer. Right. So basically your aggregator has summed up all the messages. Okay, now what you can do is you can you can perform your Excel operation and convert into text. Then add all the text. You know all that can be done. So like I have put that XSLT here, but like not coded it as of now. I have put a log to tell me what is Excel input. I put a log what is Excel output. And then I can aggregate the Excel output each time. Right? This is okay. We have covered all the three things but hash maps. Don't worry. I will share the cloud with you. I will also make it an activity for you to do it. But that's when we will talk about the inbound integrations. As of now, we are talking about outbound integrations. So for now, we have to focus on the report prompts and the aggregator. So today I'm going to ask you to test aggregator. Make the size, strategy, and content. Download my clear as tester Jeep. Don't disturb this clear. I already given you one. Don't disturb it. Copy and paste and then use. Play around it. Yeah, you have a gator. You have. Then play around your this report also like with. Tomorrow we are going to study about how we can add the launch parameters. So how often? I mean in what scenarios? We test this actually. We use aggregators. In what scenarios? In every scenario. So like you have splitted your report output. You have splitted the report output. Now you are validating each record. But when you want to create the final output file, you don't. You cannot send separated employees, right? You have to send one full file, right? So you want. Yeah, messages to add up and pick from one file. Let's say for one record. For one record, we have 20 entries for one record. We have a 20 entries in that record. And then we don't want the 20 entries to send to the third party. Or we don't. We don't want to input or anything, right? So you have to identify those 20 records. You identify the, and for those, the quality is equal to false. I get okay. So this is what I have done, right? I do not want my aggregator to call it or add the records which are not validated correctly, right? If the validation fails, I don't want my aggregator to add, so that's why I've connected my send error to an async mediation instead of reporting error. I've connected my send error that in case of error, send the error to this block. And call it is going to false, and then I've sent it to aggregator back. Gotcha. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@upptalk.com.